Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on my show where I get a chance to talk to the world about those things that are important to me. I just finished the Corner Bookstore and the Wise Ones. I do 3 shows every Thursday. But today we're talking about a section of my book that I'm coming up with called Aging Sucks. And part of that deals with dementia. And so why don't we go ahead and jump in here to the slides, get them loaded up. Here we go very quickly. So we're live streaming. It's not a podcast. So we're going out live to Amazon Fire, E360 TV, YouTube, Android, and a lot of social media and more. And everything that I provide on this channel is for awareness and education. My website, redolaughlin.com, has all my contact information. My preference is email me or give me a phone call. I respond pretty much to everything, but those are the 2 fastest ways to get to me. But Red O'Loughlin, red like the color, R-E-D, O'Loughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, redolaughlin.com. Today's program, live and archived, is found on USA Global TV. So just go to YouTube, type in USA Global TV, and you can see any live show that you want that's live. Or you can go in there and look in the archives and search for something that maybe you've heard about or saw a little bit about a while back. But my specialty is root cause analysis. I got involved in this many, many, many years ago. I think now almost over 25, I guess. And I've been in failure modes and effects analysis from a reliability engineering perspective for many decades as part of my civilian occupation. But when I started looking at what is the root cause analysis inside the human body, that's what really kind of activated my passion for this. So I love to dive in, find out what's going on, what's happening, what chemicals are involved, what can you do to accelerate, decelerate. So I take what I can find and I translate it into, I think, pretty simple terms that people can make decisions with. But depending on what that decision is, maybe you need to have your doctor involved. You might be on some prescription meds and some other things. And this may be, oh, this is a super simple thing to do. Well, maybe, maybe not. So I tell you something here on the show, please don't just start doing it because you can. Talk to your doctor about it first. But I try to focus on what helps, but I also want to make people aware of what makes that particular choice worse than it could be. I consider myself an author of decision support manuals for aging. Hey, I'm a researcher and never been in the medical or pharmaceutical fields. I have 5 academic degrees, first one in chemistry, got an invitation to Vietnam, so I never got a chance to practice it. I got a bunch of professional certifications, primarily in the areas of quality, reliability, and logistics. I retired as a Navy captain, flew for 16 years, put over 31 years in the military. I was fortunate to get to 62 countries and got invited to 2 wars, Vietnam and Bosnia. I specialize in cause and effect relationships. I believe if you treat the cause of a problem, you're going to be able to at least have some hope of being able to solve it. But if all you're doing is treating symptoms, you may feel better, look better. But if the cause is still active, you haven't done anything. So on a personal note, my wife and I have been married 57 years, a couple of kids, 3 grandkids, and our great-grandson just turned 2 last week. Best-selling author of 7 books, independent publisher. We've done over 50 books for other authors. Distinguished Toastmaster. I've written over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn. On the USA Global TV and Radio Network, I'm an international TV host. A fair amount of our broadcasts are seen overseas, actually quite a bit more than people would think, and that's part of the reason why it's global. USA Global TV. The global part is really and truly a major portion of this network. Last year, 2025, I was selected as the #1 most valuable team player, and I was also the #3 host for the year, and just about getting ready to start. I wrote a book a few years ago called Understanding the Causes of Alzheimer's. It's a compilation of about 43 blogs I wrote during COVID, where I went in and researched what pathways cause what can I do about it. I have a book. This is not the cover. It's just a standby, something telling people that I do have a book coming out in June. It's going to be called Aging Sucks, and hopefully very quickly I will have a book cover I can start advertising. But today, dementia pathways and options. Again, information, education, awareness. Disclaimer, as I've just said all along, all of my shows today, and particularly all the ones in the past, if you happen to catch an archive, is for education and informational purposes. Does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Anything I reference in here compound-wise is strictly for research content. And as always, you have a problem, I provide some information, consult a qualified medical or professional about your health. Don't want to just take that willy-nilly and do something. Next book I mentioned, Aging Sucks, summer 2026 webinar series. I want to take it from the book level, which starts out at the 30,000 foot level, down to about 5,000 foot, where we can understand what's going on. But to really and truly bring it to the grassroots level, what can I tell you that you can do that is something that is in your home that you can go out and do something. So I'm starting a webinar series. I'm basically looking at aging, health, disease, and then look at heart, the brain, pain. Those are the things that I feel really, really comfortable about diving really deep into the causes and pathways. Aging doesn't have to suck. It really doesn't. But why should we allow it? We know a lot about the causes, this and that and whatever. Why are we not really giving our attention to the causes? That's kind of a question that I'm been curious about for almost ever. I don't know. We always seem to treat the symptom, not the cause. Dementia. Really and truly, it falls under the category of a neurodegenerative disease, ND. However, when you start doing some research on this, you'll find out there's neurodegenerative disorders, there's neurodegenerative conditions, and they all have different components of them. But within the disease, the ND part of it, there's 12 categorized diseases, and they're lumped under what they call protein aggregation, clumping, or protein issues that they're not operating as a protein should. The 5 most common is Alzheimer's disease. About 70% of people come down with that. Lewy body, 16%. Vascular diabetes is 16%. CBD. It's not the CBD oil you're thinking about, and I'm going to have to wait till I get to that slide because my mind is blank right now. And I can do the same thing with PSP. I'm just be guessing at this moment. My brain is somewhere else. So I will cover both of. I'm going to cover Alzheimer's, CBD, and PSP today in some level of detail. 15% of people with neurodegenerative diseases have multiple symptoms, multiple diseases, more than just, say, Alzheimer's. 80% with one have 2 or more. 60% have 3 or more. And so when you start having a bunch of different kinds of neurological disorders, the symptoms overlap, they're confusing. And then you start getting into, well, what does that person really have? And it used to be the only way you could tell you had Alzheimer's was through an autopsy. Oh, they've become a little bit better than that nowadays, but it's still sometimes difficult to pin it down. But with any disease, you don't want to wait till it actually manifests itself. You want to prevent those things from happening on the very front end. And so the things that I'm going to be talking about are the normal things that we do every single day, that if we do them properly, chances are we can really not remove the risk, let's say really reduce the risk of having dementia and other issues, cancers, etc. But the term neurodegenerative conditions, worldwide over a third. They include stroke, neonatal encephalopathy, migraines, dementia, diabetic neuropathy, meningitis, epilepsy, neurological complications. And those include premature birth, autism spectrum disorder, nervous system cancers. When I was going to college, I was fortunate enough to live for free with a couple. The husband had epilepsy, grand mal seizures all the time. And it wasn't until literally decades later that I found out that back in the 20s, they used to treat epilepsy very effectively with fasting. And I said, okay, when I started getting involved in fasting, I learned more about it. But fasting is a really good way to treat epilepsy. I just pass that on for what it might be worth. Okay. So when we start looking at neurological diseases and disorders, they look at probably 15% worldwide because it's more than just dementia and Alzheimer's. But if I look inside the United States, for our population, about 4% have dementia of some sort. But when you start getting older, that 4% bumps up quite a bit. So you get over 65, 70, you're starting to look at 13% or higher people with some kind of neurological, neurodegenerative disease. The most common multiple when you start looking at things is Alzheimer's disease and Lewy body dementia. Similar pathways, different results. So I got the pathways will get me all the way to the brain, and then all of a sudden this one goes into the frontal cortex. This one goes to the amygdala. This one goes over here, and all of a sudden they end up in different places, and they create different states of havoc with your brain. And those are the disorders, the diseases we have. But all the way up to the time it gets to your brain, the pathways are fairly similar. It's just that when they start manifesting into different parts of the brain, that we start seeing different kinds of symptoms that occur. These are not random. The disease follows a specific pathway. And once it gets to its destination, that's when you start, okay, that person has Lewy body, that person has vascular, that person has what, and so you're able to define it better. But we don't really want to ever get that far if we can avoid it. So today I'm going to look at 3 neurodegenerative diseases and 8 major shared pathways, the hallmarks of these diseases. So I have to ask myself, if I have a brain disease and all of a sudden my brain's not operating properly, what's the problem? Why do my brain cells stop working? Well, there's actually a number of problems in there. One of them is energy. Your mitochondria in your brain are just not producing enough ADP to provide the necessary power that's needed to make your brain function. And part of that could be some of these protein aggregates, the clumping. You hear this beta amyloid and the tau tangles, and we'll talk a lot about that later down the road. But we have a lot of problems with proteins not acting like proteins. Our network, our connections, you got the neuron out there at the end of this long tubular thing. And so that proteostasis, that's where all of a sudden you're not stable like you used to be with regard to being able to control the stability inside your cells. Failures of all sorts of protein failures, communication failures. Anyway, the actual physical structure of the molecule that's in your brain, it starts to erode because of issues. I'll talk a little bit about that in more detail. Our DNA and the RNA that comes from that starts producing so many mutations, our immune system can't control it anymore. Inflammation. We end up with a lot of neuron deaths that we shouldn't have. It's super interesting from so many regards. I remember a video I watched a couple, 3 years ago, maybe more than that, maybe in the middle of the pandemic. And they talked about EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, and found in green tea. It's extract catechin. And they said that when you look at a neuron and the item that was on the end of it, beta amyloid plaque protein sitting on the end of that protein, it just fit like a glove. But in the presence of EGCG, it modified, this is animal studies, it modified the molecular structure of the protein where it fell off. It couldn't hang on to the end of the protein. And so they ended up with a corrective and a preventive method of using EGCG and green tea in order to prevent and correct neuron death. But they also found out that later on through MRIs that where they thought they had a dead neuron, it came back to life. Again, most of these are all animal studies, but a lot of the brains that they're using, everything is the same chemically with regard to those neurons and the green tea and the proteins and everything else. So I think there's a lot of value there. Awareness options. What do we really have? What's the cause? What drives it? If I know what the primary genes that are involved, is my risk something from my daily routine, something I can change? Is it inherited? In which case, I can still change it epigenetically by my lifestyle choices. What accelerates the cause of the disease? What drives it? What decelerates it? We may not be able to cure or stop it, but if we can slow it down, we can at least extend our exposure to the really bad side effects that come from those diseases. So let's stick out with Alzheimer's first, one of the most commonly ones, AD. You have what they call these aggregates, protein pieces that are stuck together, beta amyloid protein, and they aggregate outside of the neurons, and that's critical because the other one is inside the neurons, inside the tubes. So I have outside the proton. I was just mentioning with the EGCG and the animal studies, it fits on there like a glove, and so it starts squeezing it to death. It doesn't allow the neuron to live. And the tau tangle is one that comes up from the inside and starts shutting down the communication where the neuron can't respond the way it's supposed to. So you got two different kinds of problems there. And I think it's 08, the guy who did most of the study on beta amyloid, turned out that was actually a bit of fake research. A lot of slides were not done properly. My understanding, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But there's been a lot of reading on that that says we may have spent a lot of time trying to fix a problem that didn't exist. But regardless, if somebody's doing an autopsy and they find a lot of these beta amyloid proteins on the outside of the neurons, obviously they're there. How did they get there? How did they cause a problem? So they are a problem. It's just that we may have been looking in the wrong direction for a while. So they clump around, they irritate the synapses, they trigger inflammation, and over time, as I mentioned, they slowly kill the neurons. And it really focuses on the memory networks more than anything else, which is why we have a major problem with memory and Alzheimer's. Primary genes, the APP, PSEN1, PSEN2, and the one that most people know and get tested for, APOE4. And so both you and your spouse both have APOE4, chances are your kids may be at a higher risk. So, but at E3 or E2, and there's some mixtures in there. But again, it's a gene that can be turned on or off. And if you have it, you want to make sure you have it turned the right way. What accelerates Alzheimer's? Essentially uncontrolled blood pressure. They talk about type 3 diabetes being Alzheimer's because you have so much sugar in the brain. And then when you start ramping up blood pressure along with that excess sugar, there's a lot of issues there. So part of the deceleration is to control blood pressure and control sugar intake. Inactivity, you're not getting enough oxygen flow through the brains. Diabetes, smoking, poor sleep. In sleep, that's when our bodies basically go through a major repair operation, cleanup. Not the same thing as autophagy, just the daily things that happen that our bodies need to repair. Social isolation is a major problem with AD. Repeated head trauma, again, is an accelerator. So if you have AD and you're living by yourself, it's probably going to get worse. You really need to have that relational contact with other people. Okay, PSP, the one I couldn't remember earlier, progressive supranuclear palsy. The cause is what they call tauopathy. One of the tau proteins, 4R, it gets into a protein mismatch where it becomes abnormal and starts building up 4R tau in various parts of the brain. The same tau protein, not the 4R, but the same tau that entangles that tied up in Alzheimer's. So now we have a different kind of neurodegenerative disease called PSP, but it's now in a different part of the brain, not inside the neuron tubes that go to various parts of our brain. So it gets up into key parts of the brain and starts causing problems. You get the tau buildup. It disrupts, again, the same kinds of things like in Alzheimer's, the communication structure, but from an external perspective. And then the nutrient transport system all leads this thing to having a failure in the brain, which leads to this PSP. No particular genes, mostly sporadic, but the 4R tau is the primary culprit. What accelerates PSP? Aging, because we just have a lot of parts of our body that are just not as strong as they used to be. Inflammation is always going to be a major portion of any disease. It's one of the core complements of disease. Poor sleep. We're not allowing our bodies the time to actually go in and repair itself, whether it be our muscles or our brain or any other part of our body. Frailty, that our inactivity, our inability to stand balance, have the strength. All of those things actually accelerate PSP. And with any kind of thing that accelerates it, the decelerators are the reverse of that. You can't get younger, but you can control inflammation. You can control your sleep. You can control your inactivity. But particularly with PSP and balance, that's a major problem. So you might be wanting balance training, strength work. And because PSP affects the tongue more than just about any other part, you started having a lot of problems with speaking, tongue movement, excessive drooling, change in the voice, potential lung issues. Speech therapy is a good one to help with. You don't necessarily think of speech issues as being a dementia one, but in this particular disease, it is. The CBD, cortical basal degeneration. What's the cause? Again, our friends, the 4R tauopathy, abnormal buildup in the cortex and the basal ganglia, not the same place as the PSP, but a different part of the brain. So I have the same problem with my 4R tau, but it's now in a different part and causing a different problem. So the pathway got it into the brain area, and now all of a sudden it found a home somewhere else. And so it gets into the thinking and movement ranges of the brain. Movement, very similar to your Parkinson's. The drivers, well, what happens is the tau, basically, because of its buildup and its ability to cause inflation and oxidation around that neuron structure, it creates problems. The neuron can't function properly. You're not getting the transportation and communication the way it should be. And you start having a lot of problems with the ability to plan, the ability to move. All those things start breaking down. And so that, again, is a major problem. Primary genes, again, sporadic. But there's a gene called MAPT that, in a biological sense, is part of that tau complex. And so that's something that if you wanted to do some further research on it, MAPT and tau would be the ones that I would recommend. What accelerates CBD? Aging. Again, it's not necessarily an absolute answer, but you're not finding a lot of these problems in younger people. So they lump it under aging. Okay. Inactivity. Who knew? Repeated illnesses, inflammation. Again, we have a challenged immune system. The immune system is not being able to take care of the problems created by the tau proteins, the misfolding and other things that happen, the clumping. What decelerates it? Physical and operational therapy. But again, if I'm already into the disease, now I need something to fix it. I can decelerate it a little bit, but I'm already exposed. I'm already there. I'd rather have prevention rather than deceleration. But if I have the disease, I definitely want deceleration. I want something that, what can I do now to make the quality of my life better? Some of the problems with CBD, stretching and splinting. In other words, it has a tendency, I've read some artists where the fingers actually almost cut right into your hand. Rigidity, it's like you have an alien life form there and you can't control. So stretching, splinting, fall proofing your home. Again, if you have balance issues, major area for concern. One of the things I learned is that, we just had our house renovated a couple of years ago. We made the bathroom doors wider. Went out to the store and bought wider doors. Not that I'm ever expecting to have a wheelchair to have to go through there or a walker, but that's one of the things that can be done. Now, if I'm looking at fall protection, we have the little rails, side rails in the shower. There are so many things you can do preventatively down the future that in the event you do have a problem, you've already taken care of some of them. So what happens overall? 8 different pathways for neurodegenerative disease: proteins clumping, aggregating, misfolding. A major, major, major issue. Energy. If you start having proteins not doing their job, the energy coming out of your mitochondria, your ATP, drops significantly. You start ending up with the DNA and RNA errors. The DNA says, my genes say do this. I give a little message to the RNA, go out and do it. It's a messenger. It doesn't get the right message, or it goes to the wrong. It just errors abound, mutations, and the immune system can't fix them fast enough. The actual physical membrane starts to fail. Inflammation rises. The connections fail long before the neurons fail. And so the disease is basically depends on what part of the brain the issue finally found a home. So let's talk a little bit about these. I think I have one slide out of focus here, but we'll fix that when I come to it. But if I have misfolded or clumping proteins, in our bodies, we have what they call molecular chaperones. Great little proteins. These things are like quality control. They have a job to do. They go around, bump into everything, and they find a protein that's folded or starting to fold. They fix it. Boom, just like that. Just like QC. They can isolate it. They can take that protein and put it in a part of the cell where it can create no damage. That's the last one there, isolation to prevent damage. But it amplifies autophagy, allows cleaning and repairing and recycling. So I have broken pieces of my proteins that are becoming trash in my cell. So the chaperones are the non-autophagy fix while everything is normal. So I have the ability to refold some of the folded proteins, but in reality, I really need to get autophagy going so I can get a lot of those old debris pieces and folded proteins and stuff that's not right, get them out of that cell and allow the cell now to start over clean and fresh with whatever it needs, recycled, renewed. And autophagy to me is one of the absolute best things in the body. So you get good quality sleep, you fast for 24, 72 hours, and you get the ability to start having the body work the way it's supposed to work. But we're never told why fasting is such a good deal. And I mean, it's just more and more I read on fasting, it just seems to be a magic pill, even though you're not taking a pill. Exercise, because you're getting a lot more oxygen through the system, a lot more blood flow. Heat shock proteins are magic, almost like the QC guys. Get in a sauna for a while. I think 160 degrees is what they recommend. But they, again, have, once they're activated, they are little powerhouses of fixers inside the cells. Polyphenols, curcumin, resveratrol, I mentioned EGCG a while ago, epigallocatech and gallate. But with curcumin and resveratrol, they both need a bioavailability expander, and that is what's called black pepper extract, piperine. It makes it about 2,000% more bioavailable inside the body. A lot of adaptogens out there, mostly mushrooms, but there are other ones. And again, they adapt to whatever the situation is. I try to stay primarily with natural options like resveratrol or curcumin, but you talk to your doctor, you may be put on some prescription options, and there are a lot of them out there. And they address every single one of these issues that I'm talking today. So I'm talking misfolded proteins or energy or something else. There's probably a drug out there that they will give you. I'll say. So if I start having less energy than what I need, what options can I have? Exercise. Exercise actually creates an environment where your mitochondria can actually function better, and what we call mitochondrial biogenesis. It actually creates a new mitochondria. Sleep, good quality sleep, the right kinds of nutrition, intermittent fasting, stress management, a lot of lifestyle choices. Energy, what can I do to help myself by taking a pill? Creatine, CoQ10. CoQ10 is needed in the, we call it, mitochondria of every cell we have. NAD, NAD is, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, yes. And it is the primary function in the cell of taking that food nutrient that comes into the cell and actually allowing the mitochondria to create energy, ATP. So I need that NAD. You should see it as NAD plus. But there's a lot of precursors because we can't just take NAD in, be destroyed in stomach acid. So you take the NMM, NR, and other ones that are out there, and you provide an environment in the body where the body will naturally make NAD. Acetyl-L-carnitine, magnesium. There's a couple different kinds of molecules called pyruvates and succinates, and they help inside the cell with the actual, there's different stages going across the mitochondria where energy begins to be transformed from food or from nutrient into that final adenosine triphosphate, ATP. So you have a number of steps to go through there. Well, the pyruvates and the succinates actually help with the function inside the cell. So if I'm looking to help my cells create more energy, give it the food it needs, give it the fertilizer inside the cell. Oxygen is essential, it's needed. So I can get greater brain activity when I have more oxygen. So if I'm exercising, I get more flow through the brain, I'm creating more oxygen. Beta hydroxybutyrate is a ketone that the brain loves. It's a magic drug, wonder drug. So if I'm operating on ketones and not glucose, which means I don't take any carbs, my ketones now become the primary fuel for my brain. Well, if I'm using ketones instead of glucose, in order to produce ATP, I only need 3 steps. If I'm using glucose, I need 10 steps. And so it shuts down a lot of those electron transport aspects of it. So ketones become a very major portion in allowing our brains to operate properly. They also increase the number of brain mitochondria. So exercise does it, and ketones do it also. Okay. Inflammation. We find inflammation everywhere. Our cells in our bodies are attacked 24/7, all day long, all night long. And antioxidants are typically the way they're fought. Our immune system fights them. But basically, our lifestyle choices are the things that we really use to counter inflammation. Diet. For the brain, mostly omega-3s. Antioxidants, healthy fats. Make sure our gut is in good shape because our gut is our second brain. And if our gut is upset, our brain is going to be upset. And if our gut is upset, our immune system is going to be upset because 80% of our immune system is in our gut. Exercise, quality sleep, stress management, all lifestyle choices. Avoiding smoking, avoiding or reducing alcohol. Keep hydrated. Again, the choice, if you can make it, it would be ketones rather than glucose, but it's a hard one to do. It's just not everybody can do it. And there's issues there that I'm not going to talk about today that you need to be aware of if you're on ketones for a long period of time. But nothing serious that I need to say, be aware of this. We'll cover that down the road. Connections die before the neurons. The tubes that run out to the 2 neurons where it's sending the information from the cell to the neurons that go do this, they get disrupted. The connection is paused. But again, if my physical activity with oxygen flow, if I stimulate my brain through games, through challenges, through learning a foreign language, through a number of things, getting the quality sleep so that I can repair the things in my body that I need, social interaction with other people, a real good balance of proteins, just not eating the same chicken day in and day out. I tell people when they're on a low carb diet, change out your proteins every 48 hours. Don't eat the same protein every single day. So if I'm having shrimp and salmon today and I'm having chicken and pork tomorrow, I'm going to have beef the next day. So make sure you're not having the same protein. Balance it out over the course of a week. And there's some other options there I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. PQQ, pyrroloquinone, PS, phosphatidylserine, and creatinine. So we'll be seeing that. This slide is actually out of place right now. I'm going to come back to it, slide number 26. So let me come up here. The connections that die before the neurons, lifestyle choices, oxygen flow from activity, mental state. I think I ended up doing a double slide on that one, didn't I? Maybe that's why it's out of slide. Okay. Did I put in 2? No. What can I say? Things happen. Connections, 26. And there's the one I wanted. I went backwards instead of forward. DNA, RNA issues. Normally, our immune system is good enough through diet and other things to control mutations coming out of DNA, which produces the RNA. And so we see this primarily in Alzheimer's and Lou Gehrig's disease. And if I'm looking at DNA errors, what causes it? Aging. I don't have the repair capability through my immune system or through other activities within the cell that normally function as repair people. Increased oxidative stress, again, a level of inflammation above just base level inflammation. And I end up getting faulty transcription factors. It's basically the communication from the DNA. DNA says, do this, but their RNA doesn't get the same message. And I ended up with misfolding proteins. Lifestyle choices help a lot. Diet, caloric restriction, because I'm now slowing down the body and allowing it to repair itself. I'm not constantly overloading it with food. Quality sleep, fasting to get autophagy, and that's generally 24 to 72 hours. NAD, again, this is the primary NAD plus, the primary portion inside the mitochondria that produces energy. So you take the precursors, we build up some NAD, we now have the ability for the mitochondria to do its job. Polyphenols, low dose lithium, CoQ10, lots and lots and lots of things there. Cellular membrane failure. This is when the actual physical structure of the cell starts to decay. It's torn apart. Beta amyloid proteins reduce a protein called dysferlin. And this dysferlin is actually the repair mechanism to keep the membrane tight, functional. It does the job. So when you start taking away the people who make the repairs are finally going to end up with, I got a hole here, I got a structure failure over here, and that's when the structure starts falling apart. When that starts happening, now I'm inducing basically neurotoxicity to that cell and eventually cell death that should never have happened. Accelerates cognitive decline. Typical treatments are your omega-3s, your curcumin, phosphatidylserine, and several different plant extracts. Exercise in this particular case acts as a BDNF fertilizer. BDNF is your BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and that is the one that keeps everybody happy. So I'm going to back up to right there. PQQ, it's an antioxidant. It builds cell membranes. It creates new mitochondria. It improves signal transmissions. It reduces beta amyloid. It also reduces tau. And so that's a major deal. When you start having the misfolded proteins of the beta amyloid or the tangles associated with the tau, the PQQ is a master at being able to isolate and reduce the levels that are in there, allowing autophagy and other aspects of our bodies to clean them up and get rid of them. Supports memory and attention. Easy to get, fairly, you just buy it online. There's a thing called redox capability, where when you have an antioxidant and a free radical rips off an electron, I now have a molecule that's looking for an electron. Well, if I have something that can donate, like vitamin C, it can donate an electron and make it happy again. Well, vitamin C can do that 6 times. PQQ can do it 25,000 times. And it also has the ability to reduce glutamate, which is a neuroexcitocity. It's a toxic exciter. So let me get back over here to the last couple. Phosphatidylserine is one of 4 phospholipids our bodies make. It supports synapse stability, alleviates the cognitive decline. My brother-in-law was a Catholic priest for years. He came down with early onset Alzheimer's. Couldn't tell you what year it was, had no concept. Put him on phosphatidylserine. In 2 months, he could tell you what he had for breakfast, what was on TV last night, what he's looking forward to tonight. It's better than most supplements. What else is available out there? Creatine. It acts like a backup battery. In other words, when your energy levels inside your mitochondria start going down, the creatine actually supplies the energy that's needed to keep it going. It buffers the ATP levels and keeps things pretty steady. The energy loss is found in ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Huntington's. So energy loss is a major part of any kind of dementia. Athletes use it for energy and muscle strength. It reduces and protects mental fatigue. Excitotoxicity is the word I was trying to think of a moment ago. And finally, my last slide. Supplements help. but consistency. You got to take them all the time. But you really need to use them before symptoms start appearing. Lifestyle changes alter genes expressions, epigenetics. So if I want to turn the right gene on the right direction, I want to reduce inflammation. I provide research. Your doctor helps you with your decisions. It's always better to catch up on any disease early, prevention. That's what we're trying to do. So the lifestyle choices are super critical for that. And a quick reminder, Aging Sucks, my book comes out in June. Webinars are coming hopefully as early as March. I'll keep you up to date on that. That is my show for today. I appreciate you watching. You can always catch the archive version on YouTube under USA Global TV. So I'm bidding you a wonderful day and have fun. Enjoy. Catch you. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.